The Danish Girl is a novel written by David Ebershoff. It takes place in Copenhagen in the 1920s and tells the story of landscape painter Einar Wegener and his wife, portraitist Gerda Wegener. One day, Gerda asks Einar to pose for her instead of a model, and he takes on the identity of Lily Elbe, his female alter ego. Gradually, he realizes that he has always identified with the opposite gender, despite the attempt to hide it from society, and begins to dress as a woman more and more frequently. Gerda suffers a lot, but decides not to abandon Einar and starts painting portraits of Lily. Einar moves to Paris with Gerda, where he begins not to tolerate his male life anymore. Gerda thus contacts Hans, Einar's first love, but he is not reciprocated. On the other hand, Gerda takes a fancy to him, but decides not to leave her husband. They consult different psychologists, but all consider Einar a pervert. The only one who understands the situation is Dr. Warncross, who proposes him an orchiectomy. Despite the danger, Einar decides to undergo it. For a short time, Lily and Gerda live together as friends. Lily starts working as a saleswoman in a perfumery and wants a relationship with a man. So she undergoes a vaginoplasty with a failed ovarian transplantation, and she dies the next day. David Ebershoff is an American writer, publisher, and professor. He was born in Pasadena, California in 1969. He currently lives in Manhattan, New York, and teaches creative writing at Columbia University. He is the author of 4 bestsellers: The Danish Girl, The Rose City, Pasadena, and The 19th Wife. Out magazine mentioned him twice on the list of the 100 most influential LGBT community members in the world. He also worked as a journalist for newspapers such as the New York Times and The Guardian. In 2015, the novel was adapted into a film directed by Tom Hooper. Differently from other movie adaptations, The Danish Girl respects the novel as much as possible, reporting the most important information. Eddie Redmayne interprets the characters of Einar and Lily with respect and sensitivity, receiving an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. The novel and the movie both overwhelm the readers. They immediately immerse themselves in the story, empathize with the character, and identify themselves with his painful feelings. However, the book is more appropriate to report the story because a novel gives the opportunity to explain feelings that a movie is never able to report, even with a sensational actor like Redmayne. Being such an intense and introspective story, in the novel there are chapters entirely dedicated to Einar's childhood, which is fundamental to understand his decisions in adulthood, and his struggles with society, which judges and rejects him as an outcast. The novel therefore gives readers more details and greater complexity to the story. Another important difference regards the relationship between Einar and Gerda. In the film, their relationship is based on a remarkable intimacy, which is not reported in a novel where Einar doesn't seem to be attracted at all by women, and therefore their relationship is much less carnal, even if he loves and respects her deeply. The novel and the film are inspired by the lives of Danish painters Gerda Wegener and Lily Elbe, a transgender woman and among the early recipients of sex reassignment surgery. The theme of the novel is obviously Lily's transsexuality, from the rejection of her own sex to the identification with the opposite one, from surgical interventions to change her body to the process of reaffirmation of her physical and psychological identity. It is therefore the story of Einar, a person who tries to rediscover himself despite the prejudice of society. But it is also the story of Gerda's love, which persists during the stages of Einar's transition. Her husband's transformation is something unexpected that completely affects her. It is described the total upset of her balance and the way she chooses to deal with this change, to eventually give up and decide to be part of that change, doing her best to be brave, being there for Lily and taking care of her. Then, if we stop to reflect on it, we understand that the main theme of the story is acceptance. Einar accepts himself for what he really is, while Gerda accepts that the man she loves wants to live a completely different life. What Gerda does is an act of great courage, because she deeply loves Einar and does all that she can to make him happy, even accepting to renounce him. The Danish Girl is an international bestseller, considered a New York Times notable book. It won many awards, such as the Lambda Literary Award for Transgender Fiction. The New York Times named it one of the 25 books that have shaped LGBT literature over the past 20 years, because for the first time the topic of transsexuality is addressed with fairness and respect, and for this reason readers open their eyes on the fact that this community suffers discrimination and struggles for equality. There are many reasons why I have chosen this novel. First of all, it is a story about Einar's long and painful process to change sex, and this is why the readers can identify themselves with a character that is not a traditional stereotype. In fact, while in ancient works there were many homosexual characters, making LGBT literature an affirmed literary genre, in modern literature it's not easy to find novels that deal with this topic. Moreover, the story gives the opportunity to reflect on how much progress modern medicine has made. In fact, in the novel, Lily discusses with different doctors who consider her mentally ill or schizophrenic and undergo her to antideviance treatment. Only after a long while she learns about the possibility of permanently transforming her body from that of a man to that of a woman. Lily, although it is not specified in any document, was probably intersexual, that is, a person whose sex, chromosomes, and genitals cannot be defined as exclusively male or female. In fact, in the novel, her body is described as very delicate and almost feminine. She suffers from some blood leaks, and she also has undeveloped ovaries. At the time, all this seemed absurd and was catalogued as abnormal. However, today sex change is much less dangerous and is considered by most people as a common process. Finally, this novel unconsciously underlines that such an overwhelming change can only be tackled through the strength of limitless love. In fact, beyond such a courageous change, there are always people who are just as courageous. Husbands, wives, relatives, friends, who support the person who is facing this change in a society that does not always bother to do so.